Okay, I wanted to give a quick video on the weather synopsis. I'm going to try to get some things together. All this was based on me looking at it was the 12Z HRRR run, looking at dew points, looking at CAPE, which is the instability, supercell parameters, which really wasn't that useful except in one instance, how much of a cap there is in the atmosphere, and where do I think, if there's going to be significant severe weather, where it's going to be. So I'm going to start in Kansas, Missouri. Much more conditional. As I've been hiking out here on the west side of Manhattan, Kansas, I did see some couple towering cumulus, one off to the northeast, one off to the west southwest. The area in the west southwest, there might be some prairie fires going on and maybe even wildfire. I have not checked the news on that, and I haven't checked the satellite at this point, but it is trying to overcome what looks like a cap. And if it does, that's gonna, and it's the westernmost, that tells me that we might have more convection than we thought going eastward, because it's going to go more upscale west to east. Missouri and eastern Kansas, I'm going to say south of I-35 has the best chance of hearing their storm, but it's going to be after dark. And if it can form along that sharp dry line, or what's going to look like a dry line, but it's also the front, I think it's going to be elevated, not surface based, because when I'm looking at the dew point pattern and how it's forcing like the dew point difference, it has the semblance of Boeing segments downburst elevated storms. So probably more damaging winds. There could be some hail if it has a more of a supercellular structure within that Boeing segment, but that's if it can overcome the cap. So it's a big conditional. Into most of Missouri, pretty conditional too. Eastern Missouri, maybe one or two supercells, maybe a Boeing segment. Illinois, I don't think is going to be in the significant severe weather at all, and from what I'm seeing. So where I'm focusing, where supercells could most likely develop. So actually, I'll stop at Illinois, Peoria area. When I'm looking at all the different parameters, it looks like you could have a Boeing segment form that could have a brief tornado on the northeast side of that Boeing segment. So that's the only thing, but it's conditional because the dew points are marginal. And then the other piece in play is going to be that the lakefront, we'll call it, off the Great Lakes, and how that intersects this front that's coming down. So when I'm looking at the CAPE and the supercell parameters and all that, there's an area just southeast of the Indianapolis metropolitan area, and I'll show this on a graphic, that has maximized CAPE and a supercell potential. If a storm can fire, this would be ahead of the front, there's a chance of about 1 hour, I'm gonna say somewhere between 5 and 7, a supercell could form and it could produce a potentially strong tornado. But then all the other linear forcing is gonna come in, and then it's gonna be, if there's any storms that go upscale, become line segments, there could be some embedded mesocirculations that could produce a brief but strong tornado if that happens. Still not convinced there because the dew points are pretty marginal, and I'm not sure if it can overcome, and I think the HRRR is being a little aggressive on the 65-degree dew points going up into Indiana and Ohio. There's another area that I'm seeing where there's a chance of a couple supercells. Fort Wayne, Lima, Toledo, that area seems to have the best chance of a supercell if the front intersects the lakefront at a critical angle, 75 degrees or even 90 degrees, and then the storms go along it, because with the low level jet and the upper jet, it's going to create that 75-degree critical angle that's needed for tornadic supercells. If it forms behind the front, it will not be tornadic. It'll be a hail and wind producer, potentially big hail. If it's ahead of that or along that lakefront and tracks along it near surface base to surface base, a strong tornado or two cannot be ruled out in that northwest part of Ohio. And then the storms will form south, and it's like I'm thinking more marginally severe. Wind gusts probably more likely than like giant hail as it goes farther south and as we get into those overnight hours. But most of the convection, if it forms, is going to be after dark. But there's this weird 5 to 7 window for a thing in Indiana, and I'm going to say 5 to 7 also for Ohio as well. That could, sorry, I had to fling a spider off my bag. I was like, no, don't go in my bag. That could spot, that is the best time for supercells. But once it gets after dark, it's going to go upscale, form along the front, and then there's going to be surging cold pools at that. So there could be some hail, but I think more damaging winds is going to be what it's going to be after dark. And it's going to go through all the way down into southern Indiana, Ohio, maybe far southeastern Illinois is what I'm thinking. And then after that, it's going to be marginally severe after that. So that's kind of what I'm thinking on the synopsis right now for the weather. I'm not sounding alarm that we're going to have a massive tornado outbreak or a bunch of strong tornadoes. It's still conditional. Even the areas I identified, I'm not 100% confident that's going to happen, but the patterns are showing if it's going to happen, those are going to be the locations. So I'm going to still, but I think the enhanced risk is probably the right call for the National Weather Service. I would not expand the outlook, and they might even downgrade it slightly from what I've seen so far. But